Welcome to the World Story Channel. Video this time, I will discuss the storyline of the movie Room. This film is based on a true story. Played by Brie Larson as Joy Newsome, Jacob Tremblay as Jack Newsome, Joan Allen as Nancy Newsome, William H. Macy as Robert Newsome, Cass Anvar as Dr. Middle, and Sean Bridgers as Old Nick.
Far away, beside the crystal fountain.
I guess they still can't hear us.
Do you remember how Alan...
In this film, it shows a woman named Joy, who is in a small room with her son, Jack. Mother and daughter for 7 years in the narrow room. Starting from bathing, washing, drying clothes, even to defecate they do it in the room. The two of them never left the place at all, because Joy was a victim of Nick's captivity. That morning was Jack's 5th birthday. His mother also made a cake for Jack, and Jack looked very happy, but the cake made by his mother did not have candles like what he saw on television. This made Jack look very sad and angry. Aya said her mother should have asked Nick to bring her a candle on her visit yesterday. All this time Jack had never seen the real outside world. Jack sees the outside world only through television, and Jack is confused. Is everything he saw was real, like humans, animals and plants? Jack once thought the world was only as big as his room. At night Nick comes to deliver the necessary necessities. If Nick comes as usual, Joy will tell Jack to sleep in the closet until Nick comes home. Since Nick is coming, he will definitely have sex with Joy, but sometimes Jack wakes up and peeks from the wardrobe. When Nick came home, Joy carried Jack to his bed. Nick is Jack's biological father. Long story short, Jack saw a mouse that entered his room. Jack, who was curious, he observed the rat and was surprised to see the rat, because it turned out to be real. The two of them also often shouted loudly in their room and hoped that someone would hear to help them. But the effort was all in vain. In the evening Nick came back and Joy immediately told Jack to go into the wardrobe and not to come out. Because Jack was curious, Jack came out and approached Nick. Nick, who suddenly woke up, saw Jack and quickly Joy immediately stopped Nick, who said, "Don't touch my son." A fight ensues between Nick and Joy. Joy strangled by Nick using pillow. Before going home, Nick punishes Joy by turning off the electricity in the room, and Joy realizes they can't go on living like this. Then Joy tells Jack everything he knows about the real world. But Jack did not immediately believe his mother. Jack said that his mother had lied. And Joy also said that he had been telling everything because Jack was a kid. Joy also convinces her son that Nick is a bad person. Joy also told about everything from the beginning. They were cooped up in that room. But still, Jack didn't believe his mother's words. Joy looks very desperate because it is so difficult to convince her son. Until one moment Jack was watching television, then asked Joy, "Are turtles, sharks and everything on television real?" Then Joy replied that they were all really real. Feeling that Jack's son could understand, Joy also arranged a plan to get out of the small place. The plan was to tell Jack to pretend to be sick so he could be taken to the hospital. As usual that night Nick came to bring food for Joy. Joy immediately asks Nick to take Jack to the hospital, but Nick didn't want to and instead told Jack to rest and take the medicine in the room. The first plan failed miserably. Joy, who was at her wits' end, began to plan her second plan. This time she had Jack pretend to be dead, and Jack's body was then wrapped by Joy in a carpet. Joy also advised his son, later when he is outside and when the car slows down at the intersection, Jack has to go down and ask anyone he meets for help. Joy also didn't forget to give Jack a piece of paper that said asking for help. When Nick arrives, Joy pretends to cry and she tells Nick that Jack is dead, because last night his condition got worse. Joy then asked Nick to bury Jack immediately in a more appropriate place and promised never to open the rug. Nick, who believes everything Joy says. He also carried Jack's body and put Jack's body in his pickup car. When the car was running, Jack immediately got out of the carpet. and he was fascinated by the outside world which he saw for the first time. When the car came to a stop at an intersection, Jack got off in a hurry. Due to panic, Jack, who was running, had hit a pedestrian, and had not had time to ask for help. The helpless Jack was immediately carried by Nick to get back into the car. Even the paper containing the request for help earlier was not given because he was in a hurry, blocked by Nick. Sensing that something was amiss, the passerby immediately called the police. Nick, who felt himself in immediate danger, escaped and left Jack there. A few minutes later the police came and immediately took Jack into his car, and in the police car asked Jack about what actually happened. Jack, who was still in shock with what had happened, and plus today was the first experience, Jack interacted with other people, apart from his mother. The police patiently dug up information from Jack and asked what the chronology was. After Jack had calmed down, Jack told all to the police, who from the start Jack rode in a pickup truck until he said that his mother had told him to seek help. The police then asked where Jack lived. Jack, who did not know the address, he just said that he lived in a room where the room only had a window and glass at the top. Hearing this, the police immediately remembered a case that occurred several years ago, regarding the disappearance of a woman. After confirming the information where does he live, the police were immediately directed to come to the location of Joy's detention place. Long story short, Jack and Joy are taken to the hospital for recovery. At the hospital she watched on television about Nick being caught. There were also Robert and Nancy. They are both Joy's parents who are divorced. Now his mother Joy lives with her lover named Leo, while Joy's father chose to live outside the city. It was felt that the condition had improved. Jack and Joy were sent home from the hospital. Looks like Jack still has to adapt to his new environment. When they arrived at the house, there were many journalists who had been waiting for their arrival for a long time. Joy had to run, carrying Jack, to avoid the reporter. Jack still looks awkward in his new atmosphere. Even to speak he still looks scared, and also looks hesitant. While teaching Jack to go down the stairs, his mother says that over time Jack will get used to it. Robert arrives, and tells Joy and Jack no need to talk to reporters. It is for the good of both of them. At dinner, the atmosphere at first looks fun to change. Instantly, here is Joy's father who doesn't talk to Jack at all. Robert didn't even want to look at Jack. This is because Robert remembers Nick, who is Jack's biological father, every time he looks at Jack. Joy, who was angry, immediately rushed into the room with her son. Due to years of being confined in the room, this makes Joy depressed and stressed. Even Joy becomes angry and often fights with her mother. The next day, Joy's mother and Joy discuss the slow growth of Jack, who doesn't seem to be able to interact with children his age. On the same day, reporters came and asked for an interview session. The reporter asked the sensitive things that cornered Joy, starting from when Jack was born, until Joy let her child pretend to be dead. Hearing that statement, Joy was silent while holding back her emotions. After the interview session, Joy looks depressed and keeps those feelings to herself. Until he couldn't take it anymore and tried to end his life. Luckily Jack found his mother, who was unconscious in the bathroom. Immediately, Joy was rushed to the hospital. During Joy's treatment Jack learned to adjust to his new environment. Support from Nancy and Leo made Jack adapt quickly. Jack started interacting with neighbors and also playing with children his age. Joy, who had improved and was then allowed to go home from the hospital. Arriving at home, a happy smile shone on Joy's face when she saw Jack playing soccer with friends his age. Joy also apologizes to Jack for his stupid actions last day. Jack, who misses his old room, invites his mother to visit the room one last time, with police escort. When Jack feels confused and strange, Jack says that room has shrinked and becomes a very different place, when he was still occupying the room. Then Joy takes him home, but Jack asks his mother to say goodbye to the room, and they finally left a place of a dark past. Over. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and press the bell button, so you don't miss other interesting videos.